Good evening. I'd like to call Property Management Committee to order. First order of business, roll call.
Commissioner Dodd? Here. Commissioner Davidson? Here. Commissioner Wilson? Here. Commissioner Phillips? Right. Commissioner Irvin?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Chairman McAdoo?
Here.
Thank you.
Next, approval of minutes. Vice Chairman Anthony Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. I've looked over the minutes of the March meeting and find them to be in order, so I'd move to approve as written.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we'll call the Planning Commission up. Plainview, PH&S, City of Murfreesboro, outside city sewage service agreement.
Thank you, Chairman McAdoo. Mike Hughes, Rutherford County Engineering Department. And on your SharePoint, you'll find a couple items in that subfolder called Plainview. One is the outside the city customer agreement with the City of Murfreesboro to access their sewer. If you can recall, the Plainview Elementary School is on city sewer, and we're going to build a new public health and safety station right there in front of it at Sledge and Otter Pond Way. And they're also attached is a subset of plans so you can kind of get the idea of where it's going to be located. So we've done this before for the Rockvale Public Health and Safety and also the Walter Hill. So this is kind of getting to be old hat, but before the city will allow us to hook to their sewer, we have to get this agreement, allow the mayor, this commission and the full board will need to grant permission for the mayor to sign this contract with the city.
Okay, any questions on this agreement?
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion? Do you have a preliminary cost to the county?
No, sir. The agreement was already approved by the City of Murfreesboro, and in their notes it says, let's see, the Water Resource Department will collect a one-time capacity connection fee yet to be determined. So they leave it open. Yeah.
I hate that yet to be determined.
Yet to be determined.
Thank you. And I have seen that same language in other agreements, and I have seen it not to be an open-ended checkbook. I've seen it, they have to have the plans, and then they'll do a calculation on the number of residents or dorm rooms, the number of flushes,
yes,
then they'll do a water capacity.
Right.
And I think they'll charge us 50% more than an in-city customer.
Right,
because
for
we're
the
out
monthly sewer fee, yes, sir. Right.
But so that I'm comfortable with that fee if the motion maker is comfortable as well. I'm comfortable with that language.
It will be similar to what we paid at Walter Hill and Rockvale. Yes.
Any other questions? I'll call the roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson? Yes. Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Aye. Commissioner Irvin?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Chairman McAdoo?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Facilities Maintenance Report, Director Dodd.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll start tonight's report off on the Les Casas Public Health and Safety Building. This project stands at 99% complete, awaiting the architect to issue substantial completion. The punch list is 99% complete, with the remaining action items being rolled into our warranty period. Access controls are now complete. Locution was scheduled to be completed today. I have not received notification of so. Testing and commissioning was scheduled for tomorrow. All FF&E has been delivered to the site and installed. The permanent key core installation is now complete. Permanent temporary occupancy was granted Friday the 19th. Monday, April the 22nd, first responders began moving equipment and personnel into that building. The contractor anticipates full U&O issued tomorrow, the 26th, 2024. That's either side of the front entrance, the living area. Command center and sheriff's department post. Restrooms. Again, kitchen. EMS bay. A look into the shower area. Housing. Obviously, all these stations are alike. You've seen them before. However, each project is unique. Each project presents its own unique challenges. This one was no different. But I did want to say that this project in particular, it really tied itself to that community. The site work, the stone wall, portions of the community center grounds that are incorporated into this project, I think turned out very well. I'm pleased to inform you that the project was completed on time and on budget. The current remaining contingency is approximately $150,000 on this project. A date for the flag raising ceremony has been set for Sunday, May the 5th, 2024, from 2 to 4 p.m. at 6525 Las Casas Pike. And this will complete my final report on the Las Casas Public Health and Safety Building.
Any questions on Las Casas? Commissioner Phillips?
Just want to say I've watched this thing go up. It looks great. It really does. It fits that piece of property exceptionally well. The salvage of the old rock wall continues to add history and character to that area. It's just a marvelous building. 3 flagpoles. What are those 3 flagpoles for?
So what they've done with the other stations, of course, you have the United States flag, you have a Tennessee state flag, and then I believe the 3rd flag is a first responder, some form of representing all the first responders there.
Outstanding. Ribbon cutting is Sunday the 5th.
Correct, sir.
If I'm not mistaken, that's around 2 o'clock.
Correct, sir, from 2 to 4 p.m.
Any other questions? Okay, continue.
Commissioners, we'll move over to our Walter Hill location. That site work and that site concrete is now at approximately 80% complete. Our underground utility work is at 100% complete now. The roof work is ongoing. Fascia, soffit, and flashing are at approximately 90% complete. The exterior lap siding, trim, caulk, and paint are now complete. The above ceiling mechanical, plumbing, and electrical are now complete and have passed inspection. Low voltage rough-in is ongoing. It's roughly 90% complete, so we should see that wrapped up within the next 2 weeks. Middle Tennessee Electric completed that meter tie-in, so they've had primary power electrical. Their circuits are now at 100%. The wet area work, tile, and the fixtures are now complete. The mechanical, plumbing, and electrical have all passed inspection. The gas meter installation is now complete as well. The building is now fully conditioned. Floor coverings, cove base, expansion joint sealant is ongoing. That's approximately 80% complete. Door and hardware installation is ongoing. Millwork and countertops are ongoing at 80% complete. This past week, the appliances and some various equipment was delivered to site. There's some of the ongoing site work I'm referring to. Some of the equipment and appliances that have arrived to the building. Some millwork still ongoing. Mechanical room, you're looking into the far door would be your fireside bay. Housing area again. Again, your shower, your wet areas. EMS bay. Our 4 weeks look ahead, it's going to consist of the completion of the following items. We should see the site work completed. We should see millwork and flooring complete. Door and hardware installation, you can see they have some doors there steel crated. Some hardware there in the boxes on the wall. We should see final grade. We should see irrigation and landscaping start to shape out. The FF&E has been scheduled, and we should start to see that delivered to the site within the next 4 weeks. There are currently no new change orders associated with this project. The contractor is still targeting the end of May through the first week of June as a potential move-in date, and that will complete this month's report on the Walter Hill Public Health and Safety Building.
Any questions?
Various mechanical room, IDF room. Thank you.
Next.
Mr. Hughes just touched on where we're at with Plainview, so I will not report on that any further. I'll quickly touch on the recovery court. So we had a we had a meeting this week. Construction docks. The architect has assured us that we should have those construction docks ready for review by the end of next week. That will be followed by a city site plan review, followed by permitting, which could take shape late May. Again, this is the same schedule that we've reported on now for 2 months. Permitting end of May, early June. And so that's the only updates that I have at this time on the recovery court addition. I'll touch on a couple more items that we've spoke about over the past couple of months. So the Kittrell Board of Education storage facility, as we mentioned last month and the previous month, we're working on this project a little along the way. We think we're making improvements. Last week, we were able to kind of finalize another kind of phase of hopefully what we think is going to be a excellent corrective action. So that additional work that I'm describing is obviously a drainage ditch that was cut along that front perimeter. We installed an 8-inch drain pipe. We modified the existing drainage ditch, and we tied all that back in together to the existing stormwater ditch. We brought in some gravel. A lot of this work we did in-house. So it was this is very affordable. That's some of the rock that we hope will kind of protect that area, contain that water. Hopefully, get it moving in the direction that we're trying to get it to move in. Within the next couple of weeks, though, I'll be targeting some gutter repair work that I feel will give additional support to the improvements that I think we've made thus far. Right now, it's just a waiting point. It's just a waiting game. I'm actually just looking forward to the next time it rains real good. So I'm gonna get out there and hopefully see some more improvement. And that's really all I can report on at this time. I did include just a couple of pictures to let you know what I'm trying to describe. That is where the drain pipe terminates. That's a swell there that we cut in, and you can see I was out there last week. We were pretty heavy rain, so you can see the swell's working. We've since modified again. So like I said in past meeting, we'll continue to monitor this, but I think we're heading in the right direction. So, and that's going to complete the report or your update regarding that the storage facility at Kittrell.
Questions?
Okay, well then I will. There's a real good look down that retainage ditch. So, well then I will move on to something that we touched on a couple months back. Just briefly, just in addition to our prior discussion, we finalized the temporary fence. It was installed, and I say temporary so that we didn't use a lot of the permanent, the concretes and some of the guide wires and stuff of that nature. So we can utilize this material, these posts. We can utilize this fence at another location in the future when we see so fit. So. The temporary fence is now complete. As you can see from the pictures, we have signs that have been posted, lock gated entry, and this property has been added to our lawn care service schedule. And that's going to complete my update regarding that vacant piece of property there on 135 Weekly Lane.
Any questions?
Okay, that is all with the slides. Now this week, Ms. Kroll and her staff, they've been dealing with some limited parking issues in Smyrna there. I think the majority of you are aware of that. When we took our tour, how she has limited parking space available to her, and she's been dealing with this issue over the last several months. And after a discussion with the clerk and the mayor, he's agreed to allow her to utilize a portion of the existing paved area. It's not really a parking lot, but it's pretty, I don't know if you recall it, it's a pretty good size parking lot that we can utilize. It was associated with the vehicle emissions testing center now, that vacant lot. So what we're looking to do here is we're looking to remove those some of the signage that we posted and some of the caution chains that we had, trying to keep people from tearing up that property, using it as a staging, since it is private property. So, like I said, the mayor has agreed to allow Ms. Kroll to utilize that available space in the meantime for overflow parking for her facility there. So what we will do is we will post some signage designating that area and what it's approved for, and then we will rely on her staff to help us monitor that parking. So that's just update you on kind of how we're trying to help Ms. Kroll there with her parking issue.
Questions? Any questions?
Okay.
Do we have a long-term plan or idea of what we're going to do about her parking there, as far as actually making that into a permanent parking area?
Not at this time. It hasn't been discussed. It hasn't been discussed from a budget standpoint.
Any other questions?
Well, Commissioners, finally, this is quite unfortunate here. I was a couple months back. I presented a TEEP grant. It was that rubber tire recycled derived material that was incorporated into a traditional asphalt mix. A grant that TDEC offered up. We were pretty excited about it. We did a lot of research. Myself, Reba, and Alyssa Phillips. We spent several hours researching this material, researching various applications, states that had used it, but unfortunately. This past week, Reba had to type a letter and send it to the state. We are unable to secure a bid on this product at this time in the state of Tennessee. We reached out to several large companies within the state of Tennessee, and I'll just name a few briefly. There were a couple of others that were informal inquiries. Sessions Paving, Volunteer Paving, Hawkins Paving, and Jarrett Paving, all of which were interested initially, but ultimately declined. So what we have found is that the infrastructure to produce this material is not available in the state at this time. All paving companies essentially receive their mix from a regional supplier. And that regional supplier their manufacturing process is unsustainable to this material. So evidently what we found is that the manufacturing process would have to be revamped, and they would have to bring in additional equipment and set up their equipment to run. I mean, to us, 27,000 square yards of asphalt is a major project. That's a big paving project. But to these companies and these suppliers, it's not enticing enough for them to set up their equipment to manufacture this material. So we've had the initial quote that I gave to you came from Jared. Obviously, I had posted that on the board for you to see. And without getting into too many details and naming too many names and whatnot, but basically, the regional supplier cannot manufacture this product, and the middle guys were the ones that showed interest in it, and initially quoted the job. We're pretty excited about the future prospects of using this material in the state. So, with that being said, I can go on, but. Basically, I have email after email of withdrawals from consideration and decline letters. So that's where we are. Like I said, I'm pretty disappointed. I was really looking forward to being able to try this product out and use it on our facilities, at our facilities in the future. The cost savings was tremendous, but hopefully with this letter, that the way Reba laid it out to them with the details, the state will incentivize these distributors, these manufacturers, to lay the groundwork and the infrastructure to produce this material so that we can utilize these grants in the future. So I hate to report that to you, but we've had to withdraw from consideration for that grant.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the grant? Do you have a future plan for looking at paving?
Yes, sir. So I've reached out to two of these companies, and we think that the majority of the repairs can be patched and sealed. And then what we're looking to do is like an overcoat. We're not talking about asphalt. We're talking about strictly repair the damages and seal the entire space that we described, front and rear parking lots and side entrance and exit drive lanes. So we're still looking at the same footprint, we're still looking at the same scope of work, but instead of fresh asphalt, we're looking at a total seal and stripe job. Hopefully it'll be competitively priced. I haven't got those prices back yet because this just transpired last week. So, but I've already reached out to 2 of these companies since they're fresh, since the location, the site, and all the details associated with it are fresh on their minds. It should be a fairly quick turnaround to get those numbers. So, yes, Chairman, we are looking into repairing the damage and sealing and striping.
Any questions? Stay up here for number 5.
Parking garage. So last month we touched on just basically the current condition of the parking garage. You're familiar with some of the improvements and some of the scheduling and whatnot that we've changed to try to put more eyes on that, and on the parking garage. You're familiar with a joint effort between Murfreesboro City and the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department to police this garage. That's been successful, as I reported last month. Some of the activity, some of the activity has declined. However, as I reported last month, the one thing that we're looking to accomplish here, and I think it's within our legal right, is that we would like the ability to be able to tow at our discretion. That's what I asked for. I think that if we can do that here on the front end, we're not looking at throwing a lot of dollars at it. We've already made improvements, and if we can, I believe if we can tow at our discretion and get the message out that we're not interested in what's going on, I think the problem will, like I told you, about 90% of it will be corrected. That's what we've asked for. I know that there do not appear to be any issues posting signs or towing. The issue here is enforcement. So that's what we're going to have to determine at some point who's going to enforce this towing.
Discussion? Any questions? Have you discussed this with our county attorney?
Yes, sir.
Just real quick, if y'all remember, I appeared before you a couple months ago, and we touched on a number of topics. From my perspective, I think that before moving forward, or in order to move forward, we're going to need the help of some law enforcement to assist us in taking the vehicles into custody. And so I think I have a little bit of hesitation of Adam just calling up a tow company and taking it to the impound lot. There needs to be a little bit of a demarcated process to determine that the vehicle's been here on this date and that someone's monitoring it to say so many days later it's still here and it looks like it's abandoned or it's immobile or it's inoperable, and then we're going to need the help of law enforcement to take custody of that vehicle and have them impound it. And there's certain steps that have to be taken to then try to find the owner and notify them. So that's what I think should happen, at least to reduce the risk, the exposure risk. If we don't want to do that and we want to just, this is our property and they can't be here and we just need to move it ourselves, you can do that, but I think that there's a little bit more exposure there than going through the statutory route to remove use the law enforcement to assist in taking possession of the vehicle. So to the extent I can help facilitate that discussion between the facilities department and law enforcement, I'm happy to do that. I would hope that they're willing and able to help assist remove the vehicles from the public property is what that is. It's public property. It's almost as if there's property on the side of a road. It's a public road.
Commissioner Johnson?
So have we established whose jurisdiction it is?
I think any law enforcement can do it. I mean, I don't think there's a technical answer to that, right? I mean, we could get really into the weeds and say, well, it's in the city limits, but at least in the four walls of that building, it's the county limits. I don't like to play that type of game. It's law enforcement, whoever's there to help and is willing to take on, whether it's our people or their people. There's a lot of city residents that use that parking garage. It's free to all residents, but the statutes say that any law enforcement officer, so THP could even help us remove it. But I'm not so sure who's going to be willing to take that step for us, but they have the ability to do it.
Commissioner Irvin?
How long would it, I'm sorry this thing is so loud. How long would it take, once it's identified as a vehicle that's been sitting there, to go through the process you're describing to have it removed? How long does that process take?
Fortunately, don't hold me to this. I don't have my notes in front of me from the couple months that we met. I would say, between to find the vehicle, to mark it as possibly abandoned, wait at least 3 days or so, and then I think that law enforcement could then take it into custody. But then there's a process before it can be sold, or there's notification. They have to send certified letters to the last known owner of the address, and then before the sheriff can sell the vehicle, there has to be notice in the newspaper of it and publication. So on the back end process to dispose of the vehicle, it's longer. But I think the statutes would say that if it's abandoned or immobile or inoperable for 3 days, that might give us the safeguard to remove it.
So if we were to just put up a few signs that say if you have your vehicle left, there may already be signs, if you leave your vehicle in this garage, it's going to be towed after a period of time, and then just put everybody on notice, and that may have a deterrent effect in and of itself.
It may.
In and of itself, candidly. And then after that, we go through the process, and put a phone number at appropriate places, et cetera. Doesn't that kind of solve this?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any signs up there now, Adam. I know in the city there's not, so I think it's totally okay to put up some warning shot signs to say, unauthorized vehicles or vehicles here. We can work on the language, but there is some. With towing. I do think it is okay, it is county property to put up some tow signs, some warning tow signs, as long as we internally follow the correct statutory procedure to remove them. I think it's okay to put the tow signs up. And if Adam wants to mock up something, I'm happy to help him look to get the language on it. I don't know if you do those type of signs, in your department, but that's something I can help you get the language right on. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy to look at the draft of it just to confirm that we're citing the right TCAs.
That sounds good to me. I don't think we need a motion necessarily. We just ask Adam to report next meeting. Would that be okay? Or
here's the very
Yeah, it's got to be inoperable, abandoned. I mean, you got to have some evidence that there's. Mm-hmm. I think that's where the law enforcement piece comes in.
And this doesn't run counter to anything in that recent anti-booting statute.
I'm not familiar with that, Commissioner.
Didn't the legislature just pass on it and send it on to the governor, some kind of booting requirement? You have to, it's harder, people used to just boot stuff all over Nashville. And so they have now instituted stricter guidelines, standards for restrictions for booting cars in Nashville. I would just want to make sure there's nothing in that law that, restricts our ability to do that.
I'm happy to look at that law and see if it conflicts with the existing statutory law about law enforcement helping to remove abandoned vehicles.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's been signed yet, but I've heard it likely will be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Johnson?
Don't the law enforcement agencies already have policies as far as, I know we see them all the time on the side of the road. They've got a green sticker or sometimes orange or whatever, but it says we've checked this vehicle and it's got the date. And then if it's not moved within so many days, then it is towed. I think that's already in place, so that's not something that we'd have to.
Somebody's just got to contact law enforcement, and law enforcement has got to come out there and do it.
Yes, so I think the issue here is getting the signs up. Really, that's our only issue right now is posting the signs. That's just my view.
Adam, you think you can have us a draft of signs by next meeting? Look at them here along with the county attorney.
I will, yes.
Do we have to have a sign? Is the sign a courtesy step on our part? We could simply call the police department and say, we believe this car is, could I call a police department and say this car appears to be abandoned, and they would agree or disagree to come over and view it, put on the fluorescent sticker?
I'm sure Adam would love for Commissioner Dodd to try to do that. Yes.
The police could refuse my request or not, or Adam could call on behalf of the county. That's in place now. If Adam called and said this car appears to be abandoned, this process clicks into motion.
There's a statutory process.
If the police department accepts the call. Do we have to have a sign to call the cops and say this car appears to be abandoned?
No.
We don't have to have the signs, but I like what I heard earlier about a courtesy and then letting them know that we're going to do this or whatever. So I think it's just like a courtesy notice myself that we're going to start doing this. Any other discussion? Thank you. Next on the agenda is naming county buildings. I think we got a county commissioner here that would like to approach us and ask us for naming a building. And I think it's appropriate that since he's a county commissioner, I don't see why we have to suspend the rules, but I know some committees do it, but I don't think personally that we have to for a county commissioner. So Commissioner P, can you come up?
Well, most of you that know me know that I don't have a problem talking most of the time. Unfortunately, the first thing I wanted to say was I wish Adam had stepped out already. I wanted to tell him thank you for coming out to Kittrell. He called me the other day. We had a light rain and showed me the French drain. You saw pictures of what he's doing there, and it looks like that's going to take care of that problem. Unfortunately, in my opinion, that should have been taken care of by the contractors and the architects. If you, like me, had been on that ground for the last 20, 30 years. I went to high school there, 15 years as a firefighter there. Never saw water in that area till we paved this. And there's videos of water channeling off and flowing right into it. And they basically put a speed bump across the ramp that's going into the gravel lot, and that diverted a lot of the water and channeled it over into that ditch system. But anyway, that shouldn't have been the county's expense. That should have been taken care of by the contractor. Personal opinion. But anyway, I want to thank Director Dodd for his diligence in working so hard to take care of that problem. But he went over and above and beyond, in my opinion, to do that. But anyway, my sincere thanks there. Now I'll get to the subject that I came here to talk about. I talked to Chairman McAdoo several months ago when these public safety buildings began to take root in our community. And I want to be able to name the Kittrell Public Health and Safety Building after some of the men in our community that have been working there or worked there most of their lives. I would like to have it named after former County Commissioner Bob P., former County Commissioner Clyde Elrod, Mr. David Adams, and Mr. Laughlin Urey. Now, all four of these individuals helped form the volunteer fire department. My father and David both worked with the ball fields over there and got those established, which the ball fields and the fire department had a agreement with the county for that, to lease the property there. Anyway, Bob, Clyde, David, and Laughlin, which I put those in alphabetical order there, all were founding members of the fire department. All of them were longtime board members of the volunteer fire department, and they worked diligently in their community. Now, not to say there's not others that did the same thing, but most of those guys are still breathing air. Unfortunately, these four men are deceased. They have impeccable reputations. They worked hard for their community, and I think it would be an honor to have this building named after them, and I think that the community there would embrace that. Anyway, I'd ask y'all to go ahead and do that tonight and pass it on to the full commission if it needs to go to the full commission for naming. We, as a commission, since I've been up here for the last 25 years, have named buildings, roads, bridges after people in their communities. So this is nothing new. It's not a new request. But if y'all have any questions, feel free to ask. And you've heard my request. Adams and Laughlin Urey. Bob P. It's Bob, Clyde, David, Laughlin. Now, like I said, I did that by alphabetical order. Now, I'm not trying to hide anything from any of you. If you did an acronym with their last names, it's Bob P., Clyde Elrod, David Adams, Laughlin Urey. If you just took the last names, that's P-E-A-Y. I didn't dream that up. It fell out when I was looking at the guys that named it. So I'm not trying to hide anything from anybody by saying that. But, you know, I'm very proud of my father and what he's done for that community. He busted my tail for 6 to 8 months before I finally said, yes, I will be a volunteer firefighter. Wore me out, almost as bad as it was when he twisted my arm to become a county commissioner. And he was one of the best arm twisters that I've ever met in my life. But he's done things for that community out there. Just for instance, the ball fields there. You know, it used to be a dirt field. He spent money out of his own pocket and put the lights up on that ball field. Now, the concessions over I don't know how many years finally paid that back. But that's something that he's done. Those bleachers that were out there, I still remember digging them with a grubbing hoe and a shovel and then mixing the concrete and putting putting those bleachers in. But that's the kind of work and effort that we have put in, and not just my family, but many families over there have put into that ball field and to the fire department and that property. But I think it's appropriate to name it after these guys.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Dodd?
how would you name it? Or is it something is it an acronym? Is it multiple names? I mean, what is a name? Is it, is it just up to us, our creative thought process to put those names together? And
If I could butt in, my thought process would be to move to take this under advisement, allow Commissioner P. to put his request in writing with a brief history of what those individuals have meant to that community, bring it back in form of a recommendation in the future, our next meeting, and we'll move on it then. I'd like to have that information in front of me to be able to look at those 4 individuals and what they have done in that community. It's good for us going forward that we have something, that we can absolutely positively take a look at. It may be in the future if we accept the recommendation of someone immediately on the spot, that we may regret it at some point in time. This is something that should last forever, in essence, a long, long time. I know 2 of these people personally. 2 of them I have a knowledge of, but don't know them really, really well. So I'd just like to see that recommendation kind of put in writing, and what those individuals have accomplished and what they meant, not only to Rutherford County, but to the Kittrell community as a whole. And then we can take that under advisement and then move on it at that particular situation. That would be a recommendation, and if need be, I'll put it in the form of a motion.
I'd like to
Go ahead.
I'd like to add another thing, money and what these people have given to the community. If you go by today's dollars, the last year that our volunteer fire department was in service, they were given $80,000. Before that, it was 60. Year before that, it was even less. But anyway, now just the firefighters in that facility are costing the county $1.1 million for that one facility. So that's a savings or a cost of $1 million approximately. It's actually a little more than that per year. If you did that in today's dollars, our fire department was in service for 32 years. So there's $32 million that these 4 gentlemen saved this county in today's dollars. As he said, as Chairman said, he knows 2 of these individuals. I know the other 2 individuals, and I promise you, you'll find no fault in anything with their backgrounds or their lives. Laughlin, for instance, was a farmer. He was an estimator, a private estimator, also heavily involved with the Farm Bureau, and very well known, very well liked. David worked for years with Joe Frank. He and David and the Adams are very close and friends. David Dillinger worked with the ball fields and with the fire department over the years. But, if that's what y'all decide, personally, I'd like for you to go ahead and say, let's name this and move on with it. But I don't mind bringing you a background. I'm sure that the families would be happy to send that to you.
Any other discussion? Oh, I just got one point I would like to bring up. That we have named some in the past, but we took them through several committees, several city municipalities, and so on and so forth. Last thing I can remember is that we put a sign out here for the courthouse for a historical sign event. And I'm not distrusting what I hear, but I would like to have an input from the historical committee looking into this, just in case we miss somebody. I believe the commissioner. I myself personally know a few people out there in that area. I don't know if they were totally involved or what, but I would like for this to be thoroughly looked at before we move it on. And the last one we moved it on to, I think, the public safety, the budget, then the full commission. I don't ever remember this committee just naming a building or road or bridge out of this committee and saying, so be it. I think everything that we had brought up in this committee was sent to the full commission. Now I got the county mayor is back there. I mean, the county attorney is back there. I just don't remember anything in this committee that's been named, and that was it. So I would like the county attorney to elaborate on that a little bit.
I think that it starts here. I mean, you're the property management committee, so you oversee the county's property. And so I think the Chairman Phillips's suggestion of almost an application, if it were, or some background information to say, hey, this is the building that we're talking about. Here's the historical significance of these individuals involved, and the reasoning why it should be named is a good thing to be brought before this committee. I do agree with you, Chairman, that I don't think this committee is the full stop. I think it's got to go to commission for approval. Now, whether other committees are involved, it might depend really on the building that we're talking about. You remember we had the Bart Klein building, but that was a building that we were constructing. It was brand new. Public safety was heavily, or there were other things involved with it, with budget. We had the PBA involved. I didn't hear the first part of this of what we're naming, but if it's an older building, or what was it?
It's a new public safety.
It's the new public safety building. Well, is it almost done?
It's completed.
It's completed. Well, I think it starts here and see where it goes. It might not need to go anywhere else but the commission, but it does need to be approved by the commission before it can be named.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. This needs to go to the full commission, and I still say it needs to go now. And the reason I say that, I came to our chairman and spoke to some other people, Chairman Phillips among them, saying I'd like to name this building after some individuals in our area. How many months ago was that, Alan? 6? More than 6? I think that's more than enough time for me to have to wait to get an answer on this. And like I said, I don't mind getting a background for these guys and sending that to y'all, and that's up to you. But I'm a little frustrated when I ask for something and have to wait another 6 months before it even be talked about again. You know, I think it deserves an answer. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. But anyway, if y'all want backgrounds on these guys, I think you'll be well pleased with what you see. And as you said, you know 2 of them personally. I'd have a problem thinking that anybody wouldn't know former county commissioners well, especially if they served with them.
Okay, Commissioner Phillips.
I'll just continue to follow up on naming these buildings. When we name them, they're named, and it'll be a forever type of thing. I'm not sure that moving quickly is the best thing to do, simply because, once again, their names will be on there forever, at least through the generational process that we live in. I would move that the person or the commissioner or the organization that's making the request put that request in writing with background information on the individual or individuals that the person that the building would be named after, and make that presentation formally from that perspective to this committee. So that would be my motion, is for Commissioner P. To bring that back to this committee in the future, next month, if he has the time to do that. And I don't know how busy he's going to be over the next month or so. If he can bring that back in the form of an official written request, just to be able to look at the backgrounds of what the individual or individuals have meant, not only to the county, but to that specific community, would be on the record forever. So that would be my motion.
Motion, do I hear a second on that motion?
I'll second, and we'll be ready for discussion if you.
Yeah, we're ready for discussion.
I think, I fear Mr. P has gotten caught up in, we don't have an application process, and I support these gentlemen and the criteria that they committed, the financial, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional energy they've given, and they're all deceased, so that's that's respectful. But I think we better put some kind of an application process in place. And I hate to frustrate Mr. P, but he's kind of caught where the new way of doing it is going to have an application of some sort, and we have failed in creating that application process. And now it's incumbent upon us to do that. And is a written, just simply a written request is our application process presented to this committee. I think that's, to me, sufficient. I don't think it needs to go through.
I agree.
I digress. I don't know. I know it needs to start here.
I agree with you that, it's sufficient, just to bring written application or written information and present it to this committee, because we have looked at this in the past, and each one is a different path. A different path. So if we have to sit down here and try to write up an application that's going to cover all naming buildings and bridges and roads, I don't know how we would do it myself, because each one that's been brought before us has been different. It's been different. But it's one thing I got to point out to Commissioner P, and our secretary can look up the minutes. Commissioner P, you were put on the agenda. You were put on the agenda to bring us before the committee, but you didn't show up. I remember that. And so we never put it back on the agenda, and I guess in which we probably should have asked you if you want to go back on the agenda. But we didn't do that. But on the initial end, we did have you on the agenda to discuss naming this building. Yes, sir, I understand. But it was on the agenda, and we probably should have followed up and just continually asked you until we got it back on the agenda to move forward with it. And I understand that time has elapsed since then, and I hate that, but I'm still looking at the motion that was brought before us, and holding and doing that information and waiting for next month. I don't think it's going to hurt us. Do you think it's going to hurt us if we do that, Commissioner P? Because you may have something in your community that we don't know about.
I don't mind waiting a month, and I don't mind, as I said, forwarding biography of these fine men. What I do mind is this being put off. Now, I understand, yes, you had a meeting. Yes, I didn't make it. I didn't make it because I was at the hospital with my wife, and I told you that. Anyway, you can tell this is personal for me, and I can appreciate the committee here. I didn't have to come to this committee. I could have went to the full commission and asked. And that's what a lot of people in a lot of our namings have been brought straight to the commission floor. But I've got to respect that I want this committee to have their input. And then it needs to go to the full commission for them to decide. You know, it's not just me. It is my district. I think it's important that the commissioners in their districts have a say in naming these buildings. But again, that's up to the full commission. But I appreciate y'all hearing me out tonight. Whatever y'all decide to do, as I said, I just as soon y'all go ahead and forward it to the full commission. I'll have a biography of those guys by then, or as soon as I can, and I'm pretty sure I can have a biography of all four of them for you by the full commission meeting. But again, that's up to y'all. Thank you.
So in other words, you want it to go directly from this committee to the full commission?
Yes, that's what I would recommend. Like I said, you know, we've been looking at this for 6 months or so. It could have been handled.
Do each committee member understand what we're saying? Any other discussion? Commissioner Wilson?
Just if we're in discussion, I mean, is there any will here amongst the committee to do exactly a blend of what Commissioner P just said, which is we've explained we want an application process with biographies so that commissioners could come prepared to the commission meeting, and we could collectively as a full commission discuss this at the upcoming meeting. That's a blend of what you've asked for, is let's have background available to all 21 commissioners between now and that meeting to have time to research, and that kind of takes care to me of possibly of both requests of having time to hear and read. All 21 commissioners can read all of that, ask questions. Is that enough time before the May meeting? The May meeting, I believe, is in the third week of May or so, so what is today's date? So we're talking about at least 3 weeks from now. Is there any will in the committee to do that, or is there more will that you want it to wait an entire month, come back here at the end of May to go to the June meeting? I would be willing to personally allow that to happen, to go to full commission, since there's so much time between this committee, and we've explained that our version of the application process is make sure all 21 commissioners have the background information prior to the commission meeting. You know, I'm not making an amendment, I'm just saying on discussion, is there will to do that?
Commissioner Phillips?
My thought process is probably different than what you just described, and I'm not saying I'm right, I'm not. But this commissioner would rather move slowly and surely when it comes to naming these buildings. There are those, and this has nothing to do with the Kittrell building, but as we get into this process, there's probably going to be some folks in a community that will say, I want it named Kittrell. I want it left Kittrell. I don't want it to be named after anybody. I want it to be identified with this community. So that's what I'm saying. We just need to make sure that we're moving in a positive direction when someone recommends that we name a building. And I think it should be a commissioner. I don't think it should be an individual like someone's wife that says, my husband died, he worked for the county for 40 years, so we ought to name a building after him. It should come from someone in the commission to make that recommendation. So this process is right, and my thoughts are that why would we be in any hurry? The things that I want to see, I guess, could be done at the full commission, but when we bring something up at a full commission, I think it should be fully vetted through the committee process. The committee process works and works very well, and I don't have any problem at all with the naming of this building, but I think that we need to set some type of precedent as we go forward, and I think some of us have had that discussion before, that we need to be real careful when we name these buildings, that we don't react and overreact to something tragically that may have happened, and then turn around the next month and name something that we don't fully vet. And that's my thought process, is that why do we have to make a decision tonight? Why do we have to make a decision next month? That this should be fully vetted, and it's not just for this one, it's for us going forward. You know, we've got other buildings that will probably, since we've started this process, will probably be coming on board time and time and time again. So those are some things that I just think we need to make sure we're doing what not only the commissioner in that area wants to do, but the commission thinks is appropriate, and the community also thinks it's appropriate. So I just think that Robert's got, Commissioner P's got his hand on the pulse of that community. And I'm sure that what he's saying is 100% accurate. But I just want to make sure as we go forward that we don't rush the process, that the process should unfold, and we should take care of business. I do think, once again, that the commissioner should be the one to make that recommendation, and I think that's the proper process as we go forward. We just do not need to rush the process. There's a lot of us that probably don't know any of these people, okay? Probably. I'm fortunate enough to be old enough to where I know personally 2 of these people and know of the other 2 and what they meant to that community. But there's a lot of people on the full commission that do not. So I could see a lot of blank faces that, who are these people, and why are you bringing it up to me tonight? I'd like to see a little bit more. Anyway, that's just my thought process. It's not going to hurt anyone or anybody if we take 1, 2, 3, or 4 months to do the process. It just needs to be done in a way that we're confident that it's in the best interest of not only the county, but that community that it happens.
Commissioner Johnson.
It may seem like we would be rushing if we did this tonight. Of course, there again, it wouldn't be in stone. It would go to the commission. Whatever we would do wouldn't be the end of it tonight. As Commissioner P said, it's been at least 6 months since he was on the agenda, and for whatever reason wasn't back on it. Not laying blame, it just happened. But I understand why he wasn't here that night, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry that it's taken 6 months to bring this back up. There again, it has been 6 months, so I don't feel like we would be rushing anything. I understand, Chairman, what you're saying, and I agree. But it was brought back up again tonight by Commissioner P, and he was here. He pretty much summarized what he would be bringing back to us next month. I feel that we could amend this. I'd like to amend this motion to have this sent on to the commission without a recommendation, but to send it to the commission with the understanding that Commissioner P would bring back the information as asked tonight, as far as the history of these men, what they've done, and have the commission vote on this at the next commission meeting. If anyone has an objection that night, that's fine. But the information would be brought to us and it wouldn't be strung out any longer. Like I said, it has been 6 months. There's only one of these men that I haven't personally known. David Adams, I knew him through what he's done in the community, through working with him on other issues as far as the ball fields out there. Commissioner Elrod, I served with him. Proud to say I served with him. Commissioner Bob P. I knew him. I didn't serve with him, but I did know him. But I would like to put that in a form of an amendment.
You heard the amendment. Do I hear a second? Second to the amendment? Got a second to the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Any discussion on the amendment? All right, call the roll on the amendment.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson? Chairman McAdoo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, motion passes that this information that Commissioner P is bringing forward is to be brought forward to the full commission at the next commissioner meeting. Any other discussion?
Yes, sir. So
Commissioner Dodd?
the amended, we don't have to vote on the original motion as amended.
We have to vote on the motion as amended.
Yeah.
Okay, so we voted on the amendment, so we still, I'm discussing the new vote.
Yeah, we
So
still,
I supported forwarding this on to full commission. I voted yes on the amendment. My discomfort, I seconded the original amendment, the original motion, because we don't have a process. And we need to establish a process tonight, in my opinion. I would like to voice a couple of steps and see if we can't resolve. I think that buildings, people who wish to, the process for naming a building is commissioner bring it to this committee in writing with historical footnotes of the individuals, and this committee send it on to full commission. I think that's the problem. I don't want it to be any more complicated, but I want a process.
I'm sorry, but point of order.
Oh,
Go
on the
ahead.
motion? Okay, I've jumped ahead.
Yes,
I've
we
jumped
have
ahead
to
too far.
stay
I'm
on
sorry.
the amendment.
okay, yeah, you jumped.
We
And that'll
seconded
be
this
another
amendment.
topic.
And so what will the vote will be then, the next vote will be on what you just
On
asked.
the original motion.
I am so sorry. I took us down the rabbit path on that. I'll reserve my
Call for the
opportunity.
original motion. Commissioner Johnson, you got anything to bring up?
I just wanted to make sure it was clear that the naming of the building would be voted on after that presentation by Commissioner P. I don't think I worded it that way, but that was my intentions. Was it wasn't just for him to present that, it was for him to present that and then we would vote it up or down, the naming of that building.
Okay, you okay with that, Commissioner Wilson?
Yes, sir. I understood that we were saying that we will forward this on to the full commission meeting where Commissioner P will bring the background information, present that to the full commission, and then the full commission will take a vote at that time. Yeah, sooner the better, obviously, so commissioners have time to review it, yes. But that we would actually vote on it at that point. That's the way I understood your amendment, that we voted on, yes.
Right, and that was what I meant, but I didn't specifically say that we would vote on it that night. And I wanted to make sure that was in there.
Make sure that's in the amendment. Okay, the amendment passed, and now we're here. We are going to vote on the original motion. Do anybody need to hear the original motion again? Right. Anybody need to hear it again? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson? Yes. Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo?
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me just say, from a procedural perspective, it's the chairman's responsibility to read the resolution. He can
Right.
he can share that responsibility with anyone he so chooses, so he can introduce Commissioner P if Commissioner P wants to do that, but it's his responsibility to read the resolution. So we can't dictate how that happens on the full commission floor, okay? So it's his responsibility, and if Commissioner P wants to do that and the chairman wants him to do that, that's all he has to do, is make that recommendation.
I think I would be qualified to read the original resolution, and I think if I need any information, I can always call on Commissioner P. But on the names that was brought up tonight, I don't think anybody knows them longer than I do, so I don't have no problem with that. If Commissioner P want to join me up there or whatever, we can go through the original procedure, and I'll read the resolution. If he want to add to the resolution, that's fine. Commissioner P?
I don't know what was meant by that, but I never said that Commissioner P would read the resolution.
He just brought it up.
What I said was that he would present the information that was asked.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, we know you, we know who's going to read the resolution.
I understood.
Anthony, someone else just said, Commissioner P present the resolution, and that's not the process that we should go through.
Commissioner P?
Well, I wanted to have some input here for a moment, and the main thing I wanted to say, I'd be honored for Commissioner McAdoo, Chairman McAdoo, to read that resolution. He served with my father for quite a while. Same with Chairman Phillips, and it'd be an honor to have you do that, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, committee. And so we'll proceed on with it at the next commissioner meeting. Okay. Next, other business. We do have some other business that I would like to bring up tonight. And the county attorney, I think he's here for that too. He's shaking his head. But this discussion came up in this past week on the courthouse, where the judicial building, conference room usage. And I think that the county attorney was supposed to be giving some information that he was going to bring up before us tonight on who got the responsibility to do that. And
My best. So this came middle of the week, and so I've tried to pull what I can together, and I don't candidly know all of the underlying facts that have caused the question to be asked. But what we're talking about is over at the new judicial building, there is a conference room, a jury conference room, and I believe it is used for jury selection process. Whenever you get summoned to jury duty, I don't know if you all have ever had the pleasure of having that happen to you. I don't think it has happened to me yet. But you are required to go and do an orientation where you watch a video and you're given instructions, and it's a larger room. I believe some other events take place there, like when there are retirements of judges or other sort of events go on there. And then there are times when the room is not in use, is my understanding. I could be wrong in some of that, but that's just my basic understanding of it. It's located on the first floor, the first floor of the judicial building, and so there are times when it is not in use. The question has arisen is, what person, what body, what entity has ultimate say-so on who gets to use that room if there are issues over its use? That question, I think, cannot be viewed in a vacuum. I think it depends on who is wanting to use it, what they're wanting to use it for, when they're wanting to use it. All that kind of stuff can matter. Whether it is, if the request to use it is by a judge for a judicial function, something affiliated with a judicial function, the implementation of judicial duties, for example, jury selection. I think that they can denominate that we're going to use that for jury selection. Or if there are some other events or things that are part and parcel of a judge effectuating his or her duties, they can probably say, hey, if that's not in use, can we use it? They probably can say, well, we need to use it we have a necessity to use it, if there is truly a necessity to use it. Otherwise, if it's not in use and there's a request made to use it for, say, an organization, an outside organization, or some other celebratory event that's county affiliated, hopefully there can just be an agreement reached by whoever is needing that to go ahead and use it. In the event that there's not the ability or a consensus for allowance of the use of the room, I think ultimately when the push comes to shove, the use of that room is up to the county commission. Now, I don't know if the county commission probably doesn't want to concern itself with the day-to-day of having to monitor who's using that, but ultimately it's a county building, and there's not a particular, elected official who has been denominated that as official space for the execution of those duties. It's an ancillary room that is used for a variety of different purposes, and so when push comes to shove, if there can't be an agreement to it, it might be up to the commission to determine whether someone can use that room or not. I think that's just the bare facts, the bare minimum, Chairman, of what I understand it to be. I don't know the ins and outs of exactly what's going on over there, and so maybe just that generalized sort of overture will be helpful to anybody who is listening.
Commissioner Johnson.
I hope I'm not the only one that's lost on this. Who's complaining? Or
I don't know all the details. I don't know all the details, but hopefully everybody can figure out an agreed upon use of that room and not interfere with the other. I mean, I think that's kind of the goal here. It's a room that's not always in use. I'm kind of looking at Eric because he kind of knows too. It's not always in use, and so and it's a larger room and it's used for a variety of different things. But primarily it's designated as a jury selection. It's where the jurors go when they're first. But they're not there all the time. They're not always doing these orientation processes. So. Anyway, I was just asked to kind of give a take on who's got control of that room, and I tried my best.
So it boils down to the commission has to say so?
If push came to shove, yeah, I think so, unless that there is some, I think that there are certain circumstances where judicial functions by necessity may require that the use of that room at a given point in time be for a judicial function. It's inside the courthouse, and if a judge or somebody has got the necessity to use that room, the commission probably can't say, no, you can't use it, you know? And I think that there's some inherent authority there for that sort of facet of it.
Commissioner Johnson brought up who was complaining about using that room. I just heard just a little bit of the conversation, and then I got involved, I guess, by saying this. I remember letting a certain group use a conference room. They didn't clean it up. They didn't clean it up, didn't pay to get it cleaned up, and it was a total mess. So I just asked the question, whoever used that conference room, who's going to pay to clean it up? I wasn't looking at the full commission paying to clean up the conference room, somebody else's usage. And I wasn't looking at holding what few janitors we do have to go in there and clean it up and to be charging the commission for overtime. So the only thing I was looking at, whoever used that conference room over there, who is going to pay or who is going to clean it up? That was my question. So therefore, we got into other discussions, so just decided to bring it back to this property management committee meeting tonight.
Mr. Chairman, and maybe in the future, depending on the use of that room and if there are issues, as you stated, that had happened before, I think, you know, your mayor is part and parcel a custodian of the property. You know, when there are repairs needed, he's got a facility department that Mr. Dodd reports to him about, and he comes, Eric Hennessy comes and reports things that are going on about your county buildings. And there's even, for example, this courthouse, there's a process to utilize it for events. They pay their fee, or there's a cleanup fee, or there's language about that. And so if, in the future, if there are requests to use that room and that's allowed, then, you know, maybe there can be something that's signed, you know, that says, hey, you're agreeing to be respectful of the room, and that there's a, you know, non-refundable cleaning deposit, or whatever we can do allowable by law that's reasonable. I'm sure that we can institute.
Thank you. So that's the reason I'm bringing it up to the property management committee tonight, is what do you want to do, per se, with that conference room, based on pay to clean it, or an application, or what? I just don't think that we should be responsible cleaning that room for other events. Could be wrong. If I'm wrong, the committee, let's discuss it, because the cost could vary. Expensive, and I think on the front end, if a group, an organization, or whatever is going to use that room, then that should be part of it, that they would be responsible cleaning it or hiring someone to clean it. Commissioner Davison?
I'm going to 100% agree with you as someone who has to clean up other people's messes. If we are allowing people to use spaces that are not ordinarily using them, like we know that it's being used for jury selection and things of that nature, but then you're letting an outside entity come in and use that space, I absolutely agree with you. There need to be some type of form where they are signing and they are agreeing to take care of our property, so someone else is not having to come in and clean up that mess. And if it requires a deposit, like most other things that you have to rent out for events, you do sign those documents. So I agree, we need to come up with that before we let anyone else that isn't a county employee use it.
Any other discussion?
I don't know why it would ever be used for anything other than governmental use. Why should it be? Why should it be used by anyone other than someone within government. That's the judicial folks as well as, I don't know, anyone within county government. Let's just say Rob Mitchell wanted to have a meeting room. I would be okay with that kind of stuff. But if someone from out in the community that had an organization that said, I want to use your conference room, and we said okay to that person, then the next person that we didn't want to use that room came in and say, I want to use that room, and we told them no, would probably be in the middle of a controversy. I don't know why it would be used for anything other than governmental use. I just don't know why. Did I say that right, Nick?
So who's been in charge of okaying an event in that room?
Here comes the county attorney.
I think this is more speculative in nature. There hasn't been events of a nature where there are third-party and outside people, organizations coming in. It's been used for retirements. It's been used for investitures. For example, when Judge Fan took the bench, that there was cake and there was ice cream, and it's stuff like that. I think the other worries about outside organizations, I'm not so sure. I think that's more just conjecture. I think it's more if it happens, how we handle it.
You understand the usage now?
I'm okay with all of that. I was just kind of sort of got the impression that, pick up on what Laura was saying, Commissioner Davison was saying a minute ago, that if an outside folks came in and use it, they should be responsible for certain things. And I'm just saying, why would we ever allow someone from outside to come and use that room when they can go to a motel or something and rent one of their conference rooms? That the issue that I would have with it is that I don't think it should be a problem. The judges can reserve it. If someone from here needs to reserve it for what if we were fumigating this room and couldn't use it for a week? Go over there and use that one, okay? That's the type of thing that I think it needs to be reserved for and used for.
Case in point, what about the Bar Association? What about the Bar Association? Commissioner Johnson?
I hate to repeat myself, but who is in charge of that building or that room? Somebody's got to be in charge. If they're not, then we need to get somebody in charge of it. I mean,
let's just say I'd like for our county attorney to come back with a recommendation as to what we do. I don't know who brought this up, but Nick, you've been up here twice, and I'd like to lay it on Nick to get with the individuals and come up with some type of recommendation.
This might be making a bigger mountain out of nothing. I really do. So I think from tonight's discussion will be helpful to those that are interested in listening to it. I think that the aspect here, all of the people that are involved in that building, they interwork together, and they need to interwork together. And if there are issues that come up, hopefully they can be ferreted out and resolved in a reasonable manner. And so I think that ultimately it is a governmental building. We can dictate who can use it and who can't. We know that if it is a governmental official and they're using it for a governmental purpose, it's okay. There are certain aspects of it that we know of, that third-party organizations like the Bar Association, they're not affiliated with, I mean, they're intimately tied with the government. There are lawyers that practice in our courthouse every day, but they're not county employees, and there can be liabilities with that. They're not necessarily invitees when it's after hours for organizational purposes, and if ultimately, I mean, I'm sure the mayor's office can be involved if I don't want to speak on, but he's nodding his head to help make some of these decisions. He's your custodian of the property. If he doesn't have an issue with it, that kind of helps things as well. But ultimately, you know, there's a lot of interest in this, and I think the ultimate goal, I'm kind of stumbling over myself. Everybody just needs to kind of work together on it. That's ultimately what should
Nick,
happen.
can't we just put up a sign, say, for official governmental use only, and let that be done?
I think it's already implied, Commissioner, because it's in the building. I don't think that that's necessary either. So, anyway, I don't think there's any action you need to take on it tonight.
All right, we heard from our county attorney. Mr. Irvin?
The only other aspect to it, and I'm going to agree with Chairman Phillips and Laura and all, there is a security issue in that building as well. In other words, there are courts, that's where a jury meets. You have to walk into that conference room, if it's the one I believe we're talking about, you've got to get past sheriffs with a metal detector and everything else. So, and there is a bit of a need for additional security, generally speaking, in that building. So opening it up to outside groups, it's not just cleaning it up, it's, you know, there is a possibility of mischief, so to speak, in that environment in 2 or 3 contexts, at least. So I'm just going to mention that. I tend to agree with what the chairman and Laura and others have said, that, you know, let's just limit it to government use and let it go at that. But I'll wait to hear what Nick has to say on his proposal.
Well, he's already responded back to us, correct? Okay. All right, any other discussion?
Yes, sir,
Commissioner
Chairman,
Dodd?
thank you. If it's appropriate, I think it's incumbent upon us to have some conclusion to the building name process. I suggest an applicant submit in writing to the chairperson through the mayor's office with the names and historical background, and it go from this committee to the full commission.
Is that a form of a motion?
It's a suggestion. I don't know if we need to have a motion. I don't, and I don't want to belay us. We've been here a long time, but that was a little awkward. I support Commissioner P. He's got all the credentials to be the right guy to name that building and the historical significance of it. Perfect case, but we're getting too big to do that with every building every time. So I don't want to make a motion only if this group wants to have a discussion. Otherwise, we're going to table it till next month. We do need to have a process for naming buildings tonight, or put it on the agenda for next month, please. That might be better.
I think I feel exactly the way you do. I'd like for the county attorney to put that process together and bring it back to us.
I'm eating my dinner tonight, I'll tell you what. Yeah, I'm not, yeah. If you'll recall, Mr. Hennessy and I, a year ago, we appeared, I don't know, 6 months, 7 months ago, appeared, and there was discussion amongst the body about creating some sort of process, not an elaborate, not another bureaucratical, huge red tape deal, but something that could be followed in the future. What I would... Some basic guidelines, like a procedure, like an application and coming through the committee, et cetera. What I would suggest, if Mr. Hennessy's okay with it, is next month, either I or he or both, I don't necessarily have to be here if we've worked on it together, he could come, but to present something to you, basic, a page, maybe even 2 pages max or something. Says here's some, 1 page would be good. Here's a process proposed, and maybe you'd be in an opportunity there to look at it and maybe even vote on it to forward it to the commission the following, that same month, or if you want another month to digest it. So that puts you off 2 months to get something in place, and at least you can still move forward with Commissioner P's request with that now without having to do that first.
I don't want to ride a dead horse, but it seems like that's what I'm doing. These buildings should be named, if they're named after someone who's had a significant lifetime commitment and achievement to the county.
Eric, you writing this down for?
I don't think it should be named after someone from an emotional perspective simply because your mom died or your dad died. I think it should be named after someone like these 4 individuals that have had a significant lifetime commitment and achievement for the counties. So it should be that type of a deal.
No motion needed. You got direction to us. Appreciate it.
Anything else need to be brought up tonight? Thank you, committee. We are adjourned.